Okay, Paul, whenever you're ready then.
Okay. Hi, my name's Paul, and I thought I'd start off by briefly introducing you to the artist I chose to do my marketing plan for. His name is Shaka. He was born of African parents and grew up in Grove, Notting Hill. In terms of genre, it's quite hard to nail down to one genre, but from what I gathered, he's mainly reggae, Motown, hip-hop, garage. However, on the last EP that he released, he also played around with jazz, indie rock and electric music as well, so he's quite diverse in terms of style. As well as promoting his mixtapes at various shows across England, he's also collaborated with Wretch 32 on the song Blackout, which is probably what he's most well known for at the moment, and he also supported Rudimental at the Brixton Academy, which is where I first saw him perform, and was also voted as Best Newcomer at the Mobile Awards. Okay, let's move on to my key aims. I'm just going to briefly go through the key aims of my marketing plan and really what I think went wrong with them. On reflection, it became quite obvious that my key aims were quite unorganised and overcrowded, and once I'd learned how to properly analyse, I realised that my key aims were mainly just increasing the number of followers on social networks. And although I aimed to grow Shaka's database, my online marketing plan, I didn't really think through how I was going to expand the fan base or encourage interaction. And in hindsight, I would have reduced the number of key aims I had as a whole, and just in order to have a clearer direction for the marketing plan. It just seemed overcrowded and it didn't really have a corporate objective in terms of the overall plan. Despite this, my overall aim really was to increase the followers on all platforms and build awareness so that releasing an album, when it came to it, would actually be financially worthwhile. How useful are our assets in terms of Shaka? From a marketing point of view, the assets were really reasonably good. The collaboration with Wretch 32 had over 2 million views when I first started to look at him, and that led to an appearance on Graham Norton, which is obviously good for exposure, and there was also several EPs ready to be sold on iTunes. Another asset I found particularly useful and important when it came to Shaka was the Shakapellas, which were just acoustic covers of songs that had been done by established artists that were similar to Shaka's style. And just going through the comments and likes on these, I found that these were really popular with users, and I plan to use these to entice fans to buy in content they might not have before by giving these away as free giveaways. Also, there was another thing Shaka did which I thought was quite good on YouTube, was these reasons videos, which were basically short clip videos of reasons why people should vote for him for the Mobos, and these were just a good way of letting the fans look at Shaka in a behind the curtain look. I thought these were really popular, so I plan to use those as well. Now I'm just going to brief talkly about how did I utilise all of the assets effectively. I thought the first mistake I made in this department was, even after I established that the Wretch 32 collaboration was an important asset and I should use this, on reflection the marketing plan doesn't really use the collaboration effectively. There was perhaps the opportunity to try and direct some of the traffic from the Blackout video towards Shaka's content, and that was something I think I missed out of. The second point, similar to the last, is that when Shaka supported Rudimental, there was again the opportunity to still direct that traffic towards Shaka's content. This could have been done by merchandise maybe, or the EPs or video content of the live performance itself. The third asset, which I thought was not properly utilised, was the reasons videos again, and that was just because I thought they were really good at engaging fans and getting to know the artist, and I didn't really include these enough, in my opinion. The limitations to my online marketing plan was, it might sound ridiculous, but after reading through my online marketing plan, it made me realise that I really only had an online marketing plan. I didn't really have any other offline aspects to the plan. This was another big mistake because it immediately limited my campaign's potential. And by this I mean I didn't consider performances in pubs, clubs or universities, and that really limited the campaign straight away. The next aspect of the online marketing plan, which I think could have potentially failed, was an artwork competition. This was just a simple competition where fans would vote out of 3 pieces of artwork and album covers, and as a reward for voting, they would get a free download of the losing artwork. The thing I think which would have not worked with this is that the reward of 2 HD wallpapers probably wasn't a big enough incentive to make them get involved in the competition at all. And the main aim of that was to get the emails and start to build a database for Shaka so we could get a proper newsletter going. And I don't think that artwork itself would have been a big enough incentive to get involved. Now I'm just going to briefly talk about the potential problems with the social networking approach. I was quite concerned after going back over my plan that the main tool of the marketing plan was social media, and arguably users now are more aware of marketing campaigns and are quick to point out the unauthentic attempts at this, and that worried me because most of my plan revolved around social networking. Within the social networking section of my marketing plan, I included retweeting to fans, and although admittedly I think this is a quick and easy way of pleasing existing fans, the overall aim was to try and increase the fan base as a whole and get new fans in. And I think just something this simple is not really it's not gonna bring in new fans. It's just gonna please the existing fans that we already have. The plan also focused largely on the startup of a Reverb Nation account, which I personally think is a good tool, but I think in focusing on the Reverb Nation so much, I probably neglected other potentially useful websites like SoundCloud or the obvious one, YouTube. And now I'm just going to talk about the potential missing elements which I just didn't include at all, which I think could have worked or could not have worked. As I mentioned before, the plan focused on online marketing a lot, which on reflection was probably a mistake because I thought one of Shaka's main USPs was, when I saw him live, he just had an energy and charisma that I hadn't seen a lot with other artists in a long time, and I think missing out on the live performances again was probably a big mistake, or at least not providing video content of him performing was a mistake. And although I feel there will be an opportunity at some stage to sell Shaka merchandise, I think considering the stage that he's at now and the campaign, it was probably the right decision not to involve merchandise at this point, just because the cash flow and budget probably wouldn't have stretched to do this. And although we established which genres Shaka falls under, there probably should have been more thought put into the demographic in terms of gender, age, income, culture. I think I could have looked into that more in reflection. And finally, as Shaka has already appeared on BBC's One Extra, I think missing out on the opportunity to do radio promotion was also quite a big mistake because the majority of the listeners are probably suited to his style. Okay. And these are the points which I think, these are the aspects of the plan I think could have been potentially successful. Firstly, using the Reverb Nation newsletter tool, I think it's just a simple way to provide the fans with a personal message, and it allows their fans to get to know the artist and builds up a relationship which is beneficial for both parties. And another thing which I noticed when I saw him live at Brixton Academy was throughout his performance he always says, "I am Shaka with 2Ks, I am Shaka with 2Ks." He just repeats this throughout it's kind of an attempt to install his name into the mind of the audience. I think this would be useful to use as a slogan throughout the campaign, because when I was trying to find him online, it was tricky because there were so many related articles and stuff that just wasn't him. So I think using that as a slogan would have been useful. And just move on to the last slide. I also thought about considering whether my marketing plan made Shaka a brand or considered him a brand. And I think initially it didn't really. And I got to quickly speak with his manager, and she said one of the main things she wants to do is make him a brand and take it globally by collaborating with similar artists such as John Legend and people like that. So on reflection, I think I would have included that as well. And that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.
Does anyone have any questions? Paul? I just wanted to ask about the art. Oh, you've lost it. You've left it. It's okay.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. The artwork competition.
Yeah.
Can you just tell me a little bit about that?
The artwork competition was just an idea to try and encourage interaction between fans and Shaka. It was basically, the idea was to have, because once I spoke to his manager, she made it clear that they wanted to release an album, but she didn't think they were at the right point to release it because it wouldn't be financially beneficial. So it was just a basic idea of there would be 3 album covers, and it was just encouraging people to vote. And in return for voting, we'd get their email. So to vote, you'd have to email. So we're starting to build a database, which we can then connect to the Reverb Nation newsletter. And in return for voting, they got the free downloads of the other 2 artwork. And I was just saying, I didn't think that was probably a big enough incentive to get involved. I think if we used the Shakapellas as an incentive, as in they get an MP3 download of that, that would have been a bigger incentive to get involved, because I don't think...
As opposed to a hard copy?
As just opposed to wallpapers, because I don't think that would make me particularly want to get involved.
So that wouldn't be that we're actually going to post you out a big hard copy, like an A3?
No, it would have been a digital download, which I don't think would have been that good, because people could just save it if they really wanted to anyway. So that's what I was saying. I didn't think it was a big enough incentive, but something like that would probably be a better idea.
Yeah. That's what I thought it was. And is he signed? I don't know if you mentioned it and I just missed it.
He's not signed as far as I know at the moment. I did briefly get to speak to his manager. She's quite a nice lady called Nike. But as far as I know, he's not at the moment. I don't think so.
Well, thank you very much, Paul.
No problem.